recently Emma Watson was issued a 6-month driving ban, and for God knows what reason, there is a very loud percentage of Americans online who are very angry about this. She got this 6-month ban because she got over 12 penalty points on her driver's license. The incident which got her the last 3 points was being caught speeding. She drove over 38 miles per hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Now, personally, I don't really care about, like, celebrity gossip and being like, oh, this celebrity said this and did this, and like, I don't care that this was a celebrity who got caught speeding. I don't really have much of an opinion on Emma Watson either. She just kind of exists. I think she seems to have done some really good work for feminism. I thought she was really great in The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I thought she was really damn terrible in The Bling Ring and what was that other Beauty and the Beast, which is a shame because I was really looking forward to Beauty and the Beast and I thought she was perfectly cast, and then I watched it and I was like, everything about this is bad and she is just very bland. Anyway, other than that, don't really have an opinion about her, and I don't want to make this video about her. This news story is more of just the catalyst for what I actually want to talk about. Also, apologies if you can hear Kyra panting in the background. We've just come back from playing in the garden, so she's a little bit tired. So what I actually want to talk about is what I find really concerning, and that is the number of people who seem genuinely mad about the UK's road safety laws and how seriously we take them. A lot of the discourse I've seen online surrounding this story actually has shown so many Americans literally bragging about how often they speed, how far over the speed limits they go, and they don't care, they've got places to be. Why do we take it so seriously anyway? And I find that really concerning. I just wanted to use this video and this silly celebrity news story as a jumping off point to try and educate people a little bit more and talk about something that I genuinely care about, and that is the dangers of dangerous driving. I know. Here's just a handful of examples of responses that I've seen. Some of them are genuine questions, like, anyone in the UK want to educate this American about why Emma Watson is getting tickets for going 8 over the limit? Was it a school zone or something? If I'm not going 8 over on our roads, I'm getting run off the road. Just an interested person over here. Whereas other people are just like, this is stupid, I'm shocked. Emma Watson's 6-month driving ban for driving 8 miles an hour over the limit seems excessive. The news about Emma Watson not being able to drive for 6 months for going 8 over the speed limit has taught me that I should never drive in the UK. My IBS doesn't follow speed limit laws, baby. And I'm sorry, but if your IBS is that serious that you need to speed places, or, you know, you can't pull over to the side of the road, well, like, just wear an adult nappy. If it's that serious, wear an adult nappy. There are ways to support your health issues without endangering the lives of others by breaking laws, driving over the speed limits, and driving dangerously. Another person says, you get honked at in the US for going less than 8 miles over the limit. Is this like a metric system thing? Looking at the conversion rate needed to make going 8 over the speed limit a license suspending offence? Crying laughing emoji. Wait, 8 miles an hour over the limit, prohibited from driving? Could you imagine that in Massachusetts? I can't say that state. People get flipped off for not going 25 over the speed limit in the slow lane. Hell, a statey will flash their lights at you to speed up on the pike. I've been passed for doing 35 and a 30 in a residential neighbourhood. I've passed people for going 35 and a 30. She can't drive for 6 months for going 8 miles an hour over the speed limit? What the F? That makes no sense. Maybe that's because in the US we drive like maniacs or something, but 8 miles an hour over the speed limit is nothing. 8 miles an hour over? That's an insane punishment. How is the UK going to be strict with BS like this and not protect women from DV deaths and trans people's rights? You cannot pretend you care about the well-being of others and think 8 over the limit is the real life risk in your country. And I completely agree. Violence against women is a very serious issue. The constant dehumanisation and the rights being taken away from trans people in the UK is a massive issue. These are things that we should be talking about, educating people about, and making changes on. I agree. However, this doesn't mean that dangerous driving isn't still a serious offence and shouldn't still be taken seriously. We can care about domestic violence and also care about people driving dangerously. They are not, it's not one or the other. We can care about both. And I'm sorry, but speeding is a life risk, as we will discuss in a moment. I don't get how they're so blasé about this. There's more as well. 38 is what you drive in 30s in America, LOL. You've got to be kidding me. Banned for 38 in a 30 zone? Seriously? 8 miles over? Good gosh, someone was being made an example of. No, she wasn't. She was just being treated like any other driver, which is a really good thing, actually. LMAO, Britain is so unserious, 6-month driving ban for minor speeding violation, GTFO. And I just found all of these responses so damn concerning, because it's like people don't understand how serious of an issue dangerous driving is, and speeding is dangerous driving. They downplay it so casually, and I find that a little bit terrifying. The bragging about constantly going over the speed limit, how going over the speed limit is so normal, like, that's really, really scary. You are normalizing putting your life and the lives of others at risk. So we're going to talk about this in depth, but first let me just address a couple of other things people have said. They don't measure in miles in England, so I question this reporting. And since when did the UK start using miles per hour? We've always used miles per hour to measure speed in the UK and miles to measure the distance on our roads. This is normal. There's nothing weird there. And secondly, someone said, why would Oxford, England have a 30 miles per hour zone? I'm not entirely sure why they're shocked by this or why specifically they're asking, but I will explain a little bit about road systems in the UK. So different types of roads in different areas will have different speed limits. Different vehicles will also have different speed limits in different areas. So for example, a motorway may generally have a speed limit of 70 miles per hour for cars. However, if you're in a goods vehicle like a lorry, which is carrying over 7.5 tons, then that speed limit is reduced down to 60 miles per hour. Cars can go 70, goods lorries carrying over 7.5 tons can't go over 60 on the same roads. Since different types of vehicle require different types of license, it's up to the drivers of these vehicles to be informed on if their vehicle has a different speed limit in some areas. It's also up to drivers to be informed about what the speed limits will be for other vehicles. So for example, if you are following a lorry, which you think may be carrying a lot of weight, then you'll know that it can't go as fast as you and you need to be careful around it. Generally, in built-up areas, most roads will have a speed limit of 30 miles an hour across England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. In Wales, this is down to 20 miles an hour. A built-up area will include places like most of the main roads in Oxford. They're basically any roads with streetlights, where pedestrians could be walking down the road on one or either side. You'll likely have buildings around them, homes, shops, anything like that. In some areas where there are schools or you know there's going to be a lot of pedestrians around, local councils may enforce a 20 miles an hour speed limit on certain roads. If there have been a lot of traffic accidents in a certain area for whatever reason, there may also be a 20 mile an hour speed limit applied to certain roads there as well. These types of roads with the 20 to 30 mile an hour speed limit are the ones that most people will be driving down on a day-to-day basis, but some which connect to larger roads may be at a 40 mile an hour speed limit. It just depends where you are. And again, the 40 mile an hour roads generally won't have a lot of pedestrians, won't be in as built up areas. There are also other types of road, larger roads with higher speed limits. Usually these don't have pavements next to them, so you won't casually have pedestrians walking around you, you won't have people wanting to cross the road, you won't be as at risk of hitting an individual person not in a vehicle. So for these roads, single carriageways may have a speed limit of 50 or 60 miles an hour, dual carriageways may have a limit of 60 or 70 miles an hour, and motorways usually have a limit of 70 miles an hour unless you are in a heavy goods vehicle, or for example you're towing a caravan or something like that. If you want to find out more about this and you're interested in it, you might want to look into the difference in the UK between like motorways, A roads, B roads, and the kind of unofficial C roads. And now when I say speed limit, I really do mean speed limit. This is not a guideline. This is not, ooh, try and drive around this speed. This means this is the maximum you are legally allowed to drive on these roads. There may be some leeway, especially if, for example, you're going from a higher speed limit area to a lower speed limit area. But generally, the law is there to ensure people are not driving over these limits. So a speed limit of 60 miles an hour means in this area, drive under 60 miles an hour, not drive roughly 60 or a bit over if you fancy it. It means drive under 60. Just to make that really, really clear. Of course, you also don't want to go too far under the speed limit if you can help it. There's no strict laws about it as such, but it is illegal to knowingly obstruct the flow of traffic. So if a driver is purposefully doing 30 miles an hour on a 70 mile an hour road because they're choosing to for the hell of it, they would likely get in trouble for obstructing the flow of traffic. You just kind of have to use your common sense. So now let's talk about what happens if you do drive over the speed limits in the UK. So In the UK, especially England, a lot of speeding is caught by speed cameras, which will record your license plate and exactly how fast you were going. They will then send you a letter about this, telling you you've got a fine, you've got points on your license, you need to go to court on this day, and so on. It's generally an automated system. Occasionally there may be traffic officers who pull you over if you're really going over the speed limit, but this isn't as common as it is in some countries like America, for example. In the UK, according to the government's website, the minimum penalty for speeding is a £100 fine and 3 penalty points added to your licence. However, you may be given the option of attending a speed awareness course if the police decide it's appropriate for your offence and you have not been on a speed awareness course in the past 3 years. And this means you may not have to pay the fine, but you'll likely still get the 3 points on your licence. You can also get points on your licence for other offences, not just speeding. These include, but are not limited to, failing to stop after an accident, driving or attempting to drive while being disqualified by court order, causing death by driving while disqualified, driving without due care and attention, driving without reasonable consideration for other road users, using a vehicle with defective brakes, tyres, steering, and so on, causing serious injury by dangerous driving, furious driving, that can give you points, driving or attempting to drive with an alcohol level above the limit, attempting to drive or drive while unfit through drink or drugs or other substances, in charge of a vehicle while your alcohol level is above the limit, using a vehicle uninsured against third-party risks, driving otherwise than in accordance with the licence, driving a vehicle having failed to notify a disability, leaving a vehicle in a dangerous position, motor racing on the highway, driving with uncorrected defective eyesight, exceeding goods vehicle speed limits, exceeding passenger vehicle speed limits, exceeding speed limits on a motorway, and so, like, basically lots of different exceeding speed limits, failing to comply with traffic light signals, failing to comply with double white lines, failing to comply with the stop sign, and so on. And basically there's lots of ways you can get points on your licence, and different amounts of points are awarded for different offences, and also which number offence it is, like how many offences have you had before. If this is something you repeatedly do, you're likely going to get more points on your licence. Points basically act as a record of how many driving infractions you have and how serious they are. If you've passed your test in the last 2 years and you get 6 or more points, then your licence will be revoked. For more experienced drivers, if you receive 12 or more points within a 3-year time period, you may face a driving ban of 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years, depending on if you've been banned before and how many points you have and so on. So in the case of Emma Watson getting a 6-month driving ban, that means she already had at least 9 points on her licence, although we don't know what caused her to collect these. Maybe it was speeding, maybe it was some sort of parking violation, maybe it was running red lights, it could be absolutely anything. And then this latest case of speeding pushed her over 12 points, gave her at least 3 points on her licence, and so she was issued a 6-month driving ban. So this wasn't just one isolated incident, this wasn't one singular mistake, it was a result of repeatedly breaking driving laws over a 3-year period. And the other thing to remember is that, like, going 38 in a 30 zone isn't just I accidentally put my foot down a bit too much. That was like I am willfully going to speed. You have to, like, willfully go that much over the limit. You know, it was a choice she made. This wasn't an accident or a mistake. This was something she chose to do. I think the most worrying aspect of this whole thing for me, though, is that so many people online don't seem to understand just how dangerous cars and driving are. Cars are giant speeding chunks of metal with the capacity to kill people that are inside of them, people that are in other vehicles, and pedestrians on the street if they are not handled correctly. And sticking to the speed limit is a huge part of car safety and responsibility when handling a vehicle. Speeding is a serious offence, and speeding is incredibly dangerous. Speed limits have been applied to roads for a reason, because they take into account stopping distance of vehicles, driver response times, likelihood of pedestrians nearby, and a whole bunch of other factors. When you drive over the speed limit, you are absolutely putting yourself and others in danger, and you cannot convince me otherwise. A study done by the UK government found that speed is a contributory factor in about 1/3 of all road collisions. That means in the year 2000, around 72,000 reported road accidents were due, at least in part, to someone driving or riding, in case of a motorbike, too fast. These accidents caused the death of around 1,100 people, serious injuries to around 12,700 people, and slight injuries to about 9 100,000 people. Because that's the thing, isn't it? One person speeding can injure tens of people. The study goes on to say that if average speeds reduced by just 1 mile per hour, the accident rate would fall by 5%. This varies slightly according to road type, so that a 1 mile an hour reduction in average speed would reduce accident frequency by about 6% on urban main roads and residential roads with low average speed limits, 4% on medium speed urban roads and lower speed rural main roads, and 3% on the higher speed urban roads and rural single carriageway main roads. If an individual drives more than 10 to 15% above the average speed limit of the traffic around them, they are much more likely to be involved in an accident. Emma Watson was driving nearly 30% above the speed limit. Just remember that. Drivers who speed are more likely to be involved in collisions. They are also more likely to commit other driving violations, such as red light running and driving too close. The study went on to say, impacts at higher speeds are more severe than at lower speeds, and so they lead to more serious injuries to those involved. A 35 mile an hour driver is twice as likely to kill someone as they are at 30 miles an hour. So you might think 38 and 30 was the big difference. Over twice as likely to kill someone is the difference. The probability of serious injury to a person wearing a seatbelt in a front seat at an impact of 30 miles an hour is 3 times greater than at 20 miles an hour. At 40 miles an hour, it's over 5 times greater. If a pedestrian is hit by a car at 40 miles an hour, 9 times out of 10 that pedestrian will be killed. Hit by a car at 30 miles an hour, about half of pedestrians will be killed, and hit by a car at 20 miles an hour, 9 out of 10 pedestrians will survive. That's the difference that speeding can make. There's a reason we have lower speed limits in built-up areas, and there is a reason that it's important to stick to them. Just as a little anecdote for you guys, but I was once on a driving lesson and driving through a little residential area, kind of like sort of the outskirts of it, if that makes sense, and it had a speed limit of 30 miles an hour, and I was driving under that speed limit, as you do. I was probably around 27, 28 miles an hour. So when a man fell over in front of my car, he fell off the pavement and fell in front of my car. I had to hit the emergency brakes, and that meant all the cars driving behind me had to hit their emergency brakes too, and so on. If I had been driving over that speed limit, I could not have stopped in time and would have likely hit him, and with the way that he fell in front of my car, I may have killed him. It's just a fact. If I had been going faster, I would not have been able to stop, and I would have likely run over his entire body, maybe his head. I'm sorry that that's graphic, but it's just the truth with the way that he fell. If the cars behind me had been driving over the speed limit, they may have not been able to stop in time when I emergency braked, and they may have hit my car from behind, either injuring me, my instructor, or the man who fell in front of my car. Speed limits keep us as safe as we can possibly be. They are there for a reason. They are there to protect you and everyone around you. And if you don't follow them, you are nothing more than selfish. Driving over the speed limit should absolutely not be normalised or treated as something so insignificant. And if you are one of these people who normalises speeding, who downplays the seriousness of speeding, you really need to do a little bit of evaluation, educate yourself, and learn about the danger you are putting yourself and others in. Ask yourself, is your need to get somewhere just that little bit quicker really worth risking the lives of you, your passengers, other drivers, and pedestrians around you? And I can answer it for you, no, it's not. No need to get somewhere a bit quicker is worth risking lives for. It's just absolutely not. And again, you might not think it makes much of a difference or that we're too strict over here, but the stats suggest that sticking to the speed limits works. It saves lives. So that last study I read you was a little bit out of date, I'll give you that, it's a little bit older. But more recently, the World Health Organization reports that approximately 1.19 million people die each year as a result of road crashes, which is a hell of a lot. But in countries like the UK, where speeding is taken more seriously and is not normalised as much, we have far few road-related deaths and traffic-related deaths than in other countries, like, for example, America, where it's so damn normalised. So while the UK has only 2.6 traffic-related deaths per 100,000 inhabitants, the US has 12.84 traffic-related deaths per 100,000 inhabitants. That's well over 4 times as many, nearly 5 times as many. And as the World Health Organization says, one of the biggest risk factors for death in these situations is the speed of the vehicle. They write an increase in average speed is directly related to both the likelihood of a crash occurring and the severity of the consequences of the crash. For example, every 1% increase in mean speed produces a 4% increase in the fatal crash risk and a 3% increase in the serious crash risk. The risk of death for pedestrians hit by car fronts rises rapidly, 4.5 times from 50 kilometers an hour to 65 kilometers an hour. In car-to-car side impacts, the fatality risk for car occupants is 85% at 65 kilometers an hour. So again, when people are so casual about speeding, this worries me because it is directly correlated to the number of people likely to die. And not just correlated, but it is a causal link. The faster you go, the more likely you are to kill people. I have the same concerns about how relaxed I see so many people being online about drink driving and also drug driving, but mostly drink driving. I see a lot of American media in particular portraying people having a couple of drinks and driving home as being completely normal. I see people talking about it all the time on social media and how it's not really a big deal, but again, it is. Alcohol makes you drowsy. It affects your vision and your reaction times. It affects how you judge speed and distance. All of these things will make you a poorer driver. All of these things will make you a dangerous driver, even with just a small amount of alcohol in your system. So according to road safety charity Brake, you are 6 times more likely to be involved in a fatal crash if you have 50 to 80 milligrams of alcohol per 100 ml of blood compared to 0 milligrams. You are 3 times more likely to die on the roads if you have 20 to 50 milligrams of alcohol per 100 ml of blood compared to 0. And you are 46% more likely to be at fault in road collisions if you have just 10 milligrams of alcohol per 100 ml in your blood compared to 0 ml. But even the UK isn't perfect in our driving laws. We allow 80 milligrams of alcohol per 100 ml of blood, or 35 micrograms per 100 ml of breath, which is the highest drink driving limit in all of Europe, and I personally find that quite concerning. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the same limit as you have over in America, but people seem to personally take it less seriously over there, I've found. Back in 2022, the US had almost 5 times the population that the UK did, but over 45 times more deaths related to drink driving than we did in the UK. So there were 300 deaths in the UK that year, but over 13,500 across America. You can also see the kind of evidence of casual attitudes to drink driving all over the internet when Americans are asked. So I scoured Reddit and just found these responses on a range of posts. It's very common, much more common than people would like to admit. If you drive by a bar on a Friday or Saturday night, it's packed, and very few of these people are designated drivers. Those people get home somehow, which means they drive. No other mode of transportation is really feasible in most of the country. Uber and Lyft have had an impact on this, but it's still very, very, very prevalent, especially further out into the suburbs, and especially the farther out into the suburbs in the country you get. I'm a truck driver, and I start a lot of shifts between 1 and 2 a.m. I see drunk drivers all the time. Just because you don't get caught and arrested doesn't make it okay. It's a massive problem which we generally don't want to recognise. You have these bars that aren't located anywhere near where people live, but rather in commercial areas. They have large parking lots. There's no public transit, and even if there is, it cuts off by 9 p.m. So how do these people get there? And honestly, the police generally don't give an F with drink driving unless you actually kill someone or cause major damage. It's very socially unacceptable, but also very common. I suspect for a lot of people, the attitude is drunk driving is really bad, except when I do it because I have it under control, or it's not that far, or I didn't drink that much, or I'm a good enough driver to handle it. Penalties are very harsh here, but that doesn't seem to deter it. I'm in my late 40s now and have the self-control not to drink when I'm driving. When I was younger, though, I could rationalise away stupid decisions. It really depends on the crowd you hang out with. I have a DUI conviction from a decade ago. When I was hanging out with drinkers, we did it all the time because we all had to get home from the bar. And we all thought we were fine, we could handle it, we know our limits. I'd love to know how many folk from my old crowd now have DUIs. It's probably most of us. But because non-alcoholics look down on that, none of us would exactly broadcast it, I suppose. If you get a DUI, the vast majority of people will think you're a trashy, selfish POS. If you go to a bar and have 5 or 6 shots with your buds, and then head out to the parking lot 15 minutes after that, most likely no one will say anything unless you're uneasy on your feet. So in my experience, definitely too chill an attitude about drunk driving. It's common in my area, and unless you're staggering about, no one will try and stop you from driving. The cops aren't big on enforcement in my town because they're usually too busy with shootings and crap like that. But in the 2 neighbouring towns, both with much less violent crime, it's enforced pretty heavily. Need I go on? The point is, some people speak about this so damn casually, And it's really, really concerning. It's so and I guess that's why I wanted to make this video, because I don't really care what a celebrity did, but I do care about the attitudes I see online where people do not take driving safely seriously. If you're listening to this saying, yeah, I agree with you, but what about me? You're not the exception. And I'm really sorry, and this is going to sound like I'm being judgy and harsh, because I am, because you need to hear this. You are not the exception. You are not the one person in the world who can drive better drunk, drive safely after just a couple of beers, who can get away with speeding because you're such a good driver, who can get away with it because, well, everyone else is doing it, so why shouldn't I? You are not the one whose personal need to be speedy is more important than anyone else's need to personal safety. You are not important enough to drive dangerously. You are not talented enough to drive dangerously. You are not special. You are not important. You are not the exception. If you are driving a vehicle, then it is your responsibility to do it safely. It is your responsibility to be a good driver, and that means sticking to the laws that have been put in place for your safety and for the safety of others, whether you agree with them or not. And I don't care if, well, so-and-so's doing it in that car, why can't I? Doesn't matter. Let them be irresponsible. Don't add to it, because you being irresponsible and you being irresponsible just makes everything more irresponsible and dangerous. How do you not see this? So, sorry, this is something I feel really damn passionately about, because I don't want people being hurt and killed, you know? When I was younger, I witnessed a car crash in Matlock Bath, where a car was pulling out onto a main road, not really looking where they were going, and a motorbike was speeding along, and the motorbike crashed sideways into the front of the car, and the passenger on the back of the motorbike flew through the air over the bonnet of the car and smashed headfirst into the ground, and we're pretty sure they died. It was one of the most horrific things I've ever seen, and I just feel like if that driver had been paying more attention, if that driver hadn't have been speeding, that likely wouldn't have happened. And it was just so damn disturbing. It's something that, like, I've always taken very seriously and will always be very passionate about. A lot of people seem to think that it couldn't happen to me, it couldn't possibly happen, but it happens more often than you think. And I might sound like I'm being harsh in this, I might sound like I'm lecturing you, but it's for your own good, you know? So let's take this stupid celebrity story about, oh, look, a former child star got in trouble, whatever, and let's use it to take a moment to reframe how we think about driving. Be a little bit more conscious about sticking to the rules and the speed limits and the laws, and let's stop normalizing dangerous driving, please. Because that's what speeding is. That's what drink driving is. That's what taking substances and driving is. It's dangerous driving. And it's not worth putting your life and the lives of others in danger. And I just hope I have at least educated you a little bit and maybe given you something to think about. And you might be a wonderful driver yourself. You might always stick to the limits, and that is wonderful. And for that, I thank you. I'm sure a lot of other people will. But I think as well, we could always do a little more to look out for the people around us. And, you know, maybe we have a dad or a friend or a sister who drives dangerously, and you know, maybe you just want to take a moment to say, hey, are you sure you want to be doing that, you know? So anyway, yeah, that's me done for today. I hope you don't mind these slightly shorter videos at the moment. I'm just trying to work on making a few shorter videos for when I'm away next weekend, because I am shooting Tramlines. I'm very, very excited. Tramlines is a music festival in Sheffield, which is going to be absolutely amazing this year. They've got Pulp, they've got Franz Ferdinand, they've got Kasabian. I am so damn excited, and I am going to be there photographing as many of the bands that I want and creating a little bit of content while I'm there as well, and it's going to be an amazing day. So if I do have any people watching me in the UK who are going to be at Tramlines and you see me around, because I know last year a few of you messaged me afterwards, say like, oh, I think I saw you around, but I didn't know whether to say hi. If you see me, absolutely, please feel free to come say hi. I'll give you a hug, take a photo with you if you want, I don't know, whatever. The only exception is like when I'm in the photo pit and I'm actually taking photos, because I've got limited time in there. But while I'm just like walking around the festival, yeah, definitely come say hi to me and we'll have a chat and it'd be lovely. But yeah, that's me done for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my lecture voice. This is, yeah, it's something that I care about and I take very seriously and just want to talk about with you guys. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And thank you for thinking about other people. I appreciate you guys a lot, and I'll see you again soon.